And now, direct from Las Vegas.
Welcome to Football Forecast Weekly. Each week, your host, Trip Mitchell, will introduce you to the top handicapper in Vegas, Dennis Tobler, and one of the top sportscasters in the U.S., Fred Wallen.
Welcome to another episode of Football Forecast Weekly. I'm Trip Mitchell, joined each and every week by the expert, Dennis Tobler, and in L.A., Hall of Fame sports writer and broadcaster, Fred Wallen. Gentlemen, a great week, too. And I know that a lot of money was made out there. Dennis, what are your thoughts?
Well, my thoughts are this. Week one, I cleaned house, and week two, I got humbled. Okay. There's nothing that will humble you more than thinking you know all there is to know about betting football and losing. When Seattle came back and dropped their game and the Arizona Cardinals did not cover in their game, it kind of took the wind out of my sails.
Fred, how was your week two?
My week was okay. You know, I won more than I lost, but I'd like to talk about one particular game last week. The old bromide in the NFL is, in any sport, you play to lose, you're going to lose. Kansas City is losing, trailing 36-35. They got like 10 wide receivers, and they got Mahomes at quarterback. So instead of trying to score, they were setting up for a field goal that I don't care from the 10-yard line is not guaranteed. They're like in the 30-yard line. So at that point, it's a 47, 48-yard field goal. So they run the ball. Hilaire fumbles the ball. It's not on him. It's on Reed. You don't do that. You've got, if not the best quarterback in the league, real close to the best quarterback in the league in Mahomes. You try to score a touchdown. You're trailing. If you're tied, you know, maybe you got some argument. You're not tied. You're trailing. And again, Kansas City should have won that game. There was no way they wouldn't have been stopped. I mean, they got too many wide receivers, too many ways to score. That one's on Andy Reid, and they dropped in the USA poll from 2 to 3, and they shouldn't have had to do that, except that Andy Reid is their coach, and he made a major, major blunder.
Yeah,
and a lot of people
he often does make major blunders. What about last year's Super Bowl?
Yeah.
On a personal level, I think the fact that his son ran into problems Super Bowl weekend could have been something that threw him off a little bit, could have been something that threw the team off. But their offensive line was horrible in the Super Bowl. They've tried to make some changes and get some new athletes in there, but that's always going to, when it comes to Kansas City, their defense and their offensive line are their Achilles heels.
Yeah, and also the coaching. Because I can think of 100 times in the past that Andy Reid has done things like Fred just explained, and everybody still gives him the credit. He's got the overall talent. They shouldn't even lose a game. All right, Mahomes is what, the MVP of all time? Come on, man. And then he can't even win a game at home or on the road? Nah, I don't like Andy Reid. I don't like the Chiefs. Mahomes is another one of these guys that did great for a few years. Let's see what he does 4 or 5 years from now.
Well, I'm going to respectfully disagree on that. I think Mahomes was fighting through injuries last year and a horrible offensive line. I still think he's the best quarterback in the NFL. Fred, you're the deciding vote. Which way are you going on Mahomes?
I think he's great. I think it's my favorite quarterback, just for other reasons, Russell Wilson. But Mahomes is younger. He's going to have all kinds of records by the time he quits. The offensive line is better this year. They move the ball at will. Why go for the field goal? The field goal is no guarantee either. No. You can get a bad center and you could go a little bit wide. You try to win. You're trailing. If you're tied, maybe there's an argument. Just play it safe. But they're not tied. They're losing 36-35 and ended up losing the game 36-35. It's not on Hilaire who fumbled the ball. It's on Andy Reid.
Right.
Okay. And before we go to our first break, first of all, we want to introduce a new sponsor to the show. MyBookie is coming on board, and they've been nice enough to give us some money to do some picks. So the three of us are going to do picks this week, and they've given us a nice little stash to start with. Our goal is to increase this as the year goes on and have some fun with it. So we want to thank the folks at MyBookie and Revolver Podcast for helping us out. But let's talk about Notre Dame, Wisconsin. Guys, you have some real thoughts on that.
I know I do. I think you're getting, last time I checked early this morning, 5.5 in the Irish. That's what I have not been impressed by Notre Dame. Wisconsin hasn't impressed me either. I'm not giving 5.5 points. Brian Kelly's not going to out-coach anybody, and that's irrelevant in this, my opinion. Jack Cohn, this has happened how many times in sports? A transfer from Wisconsin is the Irish QB. How many times have we seen a guy come back and perform even better than he really is? I presume not only will the Irish cover, the Irish will win straight up. I'll bet $50 and I'll take the 5.5 and the Irish of Notre Dame on Saturday.
Okay, we've got you down for that. Dennis, what are your thoughts there?
You mean you're taking Wisconsin?
No, I'm taking Notre Dame and 5.5.
Notre Dame plus the 5.5 points. Okay, good luck with that. I pass.
Well, Dennis, why do you pass on that?
It's going to be a tough game, and I really don't have any confidence in Notre Dame. And Wisconsin has underachieved so far. So this is, in my opinion, this is a telltale game. I'll know a lot more after this game.
Okay, and a couple other college football notes. What games do you see this weekend, Dennis, that you're excited about? And Fred, you the same question.
Well, first of all, I'm not really too excited about any of the college action this week. It looks awful tough to me. And I think by the third, fourth week of the college season, it becomes awful tough too. So nothing's really stuck out yet. As you guys know, I watch my software and see if I can find a spot somewhere. But I don't really have a best bet for college coming into today.
Okay, Fred, what are your thoughts?
I have something. Stanford's home to UCLA, 3:00 Pacific time. And one more time, it's on the Pac-12 network. So thousands of viewers on DirecTV and other networks cannot pick up the game. Over. It's going to be 80, 70, 80. There's going to be as many points as you want. Stanford's going to win. I'm not worried about that. The over is the play. Stanford versus UCLA in Northern California on Saturday. Folks, there's such a thing as a lock. This is it.
I agree. I agree with that, Fred. I think they'll score over 80 points in that game.
Okay, so we've got some thoughts. We're going to take our first break. Again, welcome our new sponsor on board. We'll take a break. We'll be back and we'll start talking about NFL Week 3. We'll be right back.
Now Place Your Bets, the world's #1 sports betting film, is now available on DVD. Produced by Dennis Tobler, this Indie Film Fest winner has reached the top of the documentary list. Order your DVD today at www.nowplaceyourbets.com or stream from Vimeo today anytime. Now Place Your Bets. Watch it today.
I want to thank the folks at Revolver Podcast. They got us a brand new sponsor this week, and we've got some money to bet. And Fred's already got his pick out of the way, and maybe two. I'll have some picks later, and Dennis will certainly have some picks. But let's talk about the NFL this week. And you know what? It is going to be a great weekend of football and some matchups that are coming up in the future that we're pretty excited about. We're going to have Tampa Bay going up to New England in a couple of weeks, and that should be a lot of fun. But let's get to this weekend's action. We're going to start with the Panthers coming in 2-0, and they're going into Houston, and the line I have is 7.5 that they're laying in this game. Dennis, why don't we start with you? The 2-0 Carolina Panthers.
Well, we know Tyrod Taylor's out for Houston, and Carolina has just played awesome this year. I had them on my contest cards last week, and they blew them away. So I'm going to go with Carolina here, but I'm pretty sure the line's going to move somewhat because Tyrod Taylor is out, questionable, and he was their second-team quarterback, and their third-team quarterback, I don't even know his name. So I'm going to ride with Carolina, and I think Carolina is going to surprise a lot of people this year.
Fred?
David Mills. Obviously, they've forgotten Deshaun Watson because of all the problems. Carolina has done nothing wrong in its first 2 games of the season, although maybe they were the preseason games. Maybe they were. I don't know, because obviously the preseason was so short this year. I like Carolina to win, probably cover the 7.5. But I will say that Christian McCaffrey will probably gain 100 yards on the ground or close to it, and close to 100 yards in receiving. He is one tremendous ball player by way of Northern California and Stanford.
Yeah, he is the real deal, a real athlete. And, you know, he reminds me that type of back who can be both a receiver threat and a running threat. And for not a huge guy, he's a great blocker and he's smart. And then you've got arguably one of the best 3 or 4 coaches in football in Carolina. I think they're going to be a good program for a long, long time.
We agree. Totally.
Okay. Let's get to the next game on the schedule. The Cardinals travel to arguably the worst team in first 2 games, Houston on one side and then Jacksonville the next. Jacksonville might be the worst team. And the funny part about this is people are talking about Urban Meyer wanting the USC job. He's given pro football 12 of the best weeks of his life. What the hell's going on, Fred? You're the Pac-12 expert.
Well, first of all, the Trojans win 45-10. I think the great story would be if they run the table or win 10 or 11 games this year. Then they're going to be in an impossible situation. Athletic director Mike Bohm can't fire somebody if he wins 10 or 11 games. And I don't care if it's Urban Meyer. I don't care if it's Bob Stoops. He's in a very tough situation. Also, in Willis, they have the first African-American coach at USC. So that adds to the consternation. If they win 10 or 11 games, and they might, they're better. Slovis is back at quarterback this week because now Dart is out with injury. Dart, the freshman, throws 4 touchdown passes last week. So I predict that Clovis will throw 5 this Saturday in their game and put more added pressure on athletic director Mike Bohm. I hope they don't have to make a change. I'm a Bruin fan, but I do hope that it puts added pressure on Mike Bohm, and I hope Willis keeps his job.
Okay, and maybe Urban Myers will win a game in Jacksonville.
Maybe.
Arizona laying 7.5 in Jacksonville. Fred, what are your thoughts on that?
Arizona's going to win. Murray's playing tremendous. Their defense is solid. They're going to win by more than a touchdown. It's not one of my great plays because Fred does not give a lot of points a lot of times. But so straight up, obviously, you're giving 3-1 or 4-1. Arizona's going to win. You're going to give 7.5. Yeah, a slight lean in that direction, but nothing big.
Dennis?
Yeah, I agree. When you're laying 7.5 on the road, it's problematic. But Arizona really let me down last week, scoring 33 or 34 points and not being able to cover a 3-point spread at home. So it's one of these games where what did you do? You scored a ton on offense, but your defense looked like it was standing still when the week before it was moving around, had everybody confused. So the fact of the matter is, I don't know. I don't want to lay the hook, the 7.5. I don't want to lay 7.5, but I certainly am not going to put any money on Jacksonville in the situation they're in. And I don't think Urban Meyer is going to be able to leave. He's in it for this year at least down there. And I don't know if he'll make them any better or not. It's kind of a tough game to bet. I don't like to lay 7 and a hook on the road because that's what kills you. So another game where I don't have a strong opinion.
Okay, let's go down to the Colts at the Tennessee Titans. The Tennessee is laying 5.5 at home. Dennis?
Well, Titans are the ones that came back and just smothered the Seattle Seahawks in the fourth quarter. And I know you don't want to look at the past game when you're looking at the upcoming games, but I don't know how you can not look at that game. Now, I was heavy into Seattle last week. They were one of my top selections in the week, and they led by 14 points practically the entire game. And then all of a sudden, the running game kicks in for the Titans, and they get, 200 yards in the fourth quarter. And they come back and they tie it and they win the game straight up. Well, the Titans opened at 3.5 in this game. And I'm going to say it again. The Colts quarterback's no good, whoever he is. And I'm going to lay the 5. I only have them at 5 right now. I haven't seen it 5.5 yet. So I lay the 5 or 5.5 as long as it stays under 6. And I just think Tennessee's going to run the ball on them. Maybe the under's the play. It went from 50 to 48 because Tennessee will run the ball all day.
Yep. By the way, the worst ponytail or the worst hair in the history of football, the Tennessee running back, that thing sticking out of the back of his helmet. Maybe I'm showing my age there. Fred, what do you think about the Colts at the Titans?
Talk about injury prone. Wentz has 2 sprained ankles. Most people would have 1, but if you're injury prone, you have 2. I'm betting against Wentz. I'll give the 5.5.
Okay. Next game up, the Ravens at the Detroit Lions. The Ravens laying, this is a big number on the road, 9.5 on the road to the Lions. And there were points in the game the other night. The Lions didn't look terrible, but they still are the Detroit Lions. Fred, give me your thoughts.
First half, they look fine. They're up 17-14. Second half, Goff fumbled. He threw an interception. Hunch is he plays pretty well here. So if somebody put a gun to my head, and I'm anti-guns, folks, I would take the 9.5 and the Lions at home, just based on the fact it's possible they can play 2 good halves. So far, they've given up, I believe, 86 points in their first 2 games with a 35 and 41. So their defense has to get better. Lamar Jackson is up and down. He's going to be a little bit flat versus last week, the miracle 36-35 win. So I think I would take the 9.5.
Okay, Dennis?
One thing's for sure, the Ravens have been involved in some exciting games so far this year. 7.5 on the road here again. Okay, there's that hook. You say 9.5. I haven't seen a 9.5.
Okay.
Maybe if those lines are coming from our new sponsor, we can make some money off of this stuff. But even if it was 9.5, I'm going to, or 7.5, I would take Detroit here. I agree with Fred wholeheartedly that, the Lions played really well. And once the ball got rolling for Green Bay, it was kind of a no-brainer in the second half of that game because they played so lousy before and they were going to pour it on. But I do think that laying a ton of points on the road in the NFL this year is not going to be a winning proposition. So if I had to make a play, I'd take Detroit plus the 9.5, whatever you have.
Okay, next game up, the Washington football team at the Bills, and the Bills laying 8.5. What line do you have there, Dennis?
8.5 was the number, went to 9.5. It's back to 9 now. The Bills will probably run away with this game. The first game of the year, I do believe in the first half, they got overconfident. They came out and they got beat. And I knew last week they would run down to Miami. And even though Tua was out, I knew they were going to kick their butts, and they did. And I don't know. I think they're going to do the same thing to Washington this week. This is a division game. They're going to blow them out. Buffalo is as good as we said to start with, but what did they do to start the season? They come out at home and lose. So it makes us all look bad when we were analyzing it before the season and the first week of the season. But really, Buffalo is one of the top teams in the league. And I look for them to cover at home, whatever the number.
Okay, Fred?
No, I agree 100%. I think the Bills should have beaten the Steelers in game 1. But again, we're talking basically the first 2 games, maybe exhibition games, something like that. I think the Bills will only get better, and I think they'll cover in this circumstance.
Okay, then we've got the Saints going up to New England, and New England is lane 3 in this one. And the question, which quarterback will we see in New Orleans? Jameis number 1 or Jameis number 2?
Well, how many coaches will the Saints have? And let me ask you guys a question. How is it possible? We talked about this our first 2 weeks. How is it possible for 8 coaches to be quarantined and not 1 player to be quarantined? Tell me how that's possible. Dennis, I know you have an answer to that. Please come up.
I have an answer. They're not going to tell us which players have COVID and which players are in COVID protocol, and you're going to have to buy deep to find out that kind of information. But I agree, the Saints aren't going to have any coaches, but I'm not sure it's going to matter. And as far as Jameis Winston goes, I don't know how bad he played. The first game he played great with no interceptions, no fumbles. He just took the short passes. I seen him try to force the ball down the field a little bit again last week. And if he reverts into that mode, he's not going to be good again this year. But the funny thing was the Saints drew a whole lot of money last week off of their game 1. And in that, it turned out to be a flop for them. So I don't know. The game actually opened as a pick. and the before game line was 1 on the Saints. So I'm talking about before the season started. And then last week when they put out the early week lines, they came out a pick. That pick moved quickly to New England 3 as New England destroyed on the road last week, just like we said they would on the show. I think I put out 3 big money moves, and all 3 of those big money moves won. And I think that's a situation here too.
Okay. And let's move down to the Chargers at the Chiefs. The Chiefs laying 6.5 at home. Dennis?
Well, I'll tell you what, the Chargers did not impress me. Herbert, or whatever his name is, does not impress me. And I will never say he's a good quarterback because he's not. And Kansas City laying 6 at home, they will cover the 6 at home because I'm not so sure about the Chargers in any realm. And when you see them at their home stadium, and there's more people rooting for the away team, like Dallas had 2/3 of the fans in LA last week. And when Dallas made a move, they cheered. They didn't cheer the Chargers. So the Chargers are kind of a team without a city, a team without any backing, a team without any quarterback, because until Herbert does something besides throw interceptions and fumble and lose the game, I'm not going to think anything about it. Anyway, this is a mismatch from day one. Kansas City lost last week. They're pissed off. They're going to kick the Chargers' butt. And they'll probably pick off Bear 3 times. Herbert.
Fred?
Well, I agree on Dennis on a lot of issues, but on Herbert, I totally disagree. We are 179 degrees off. I think Herbert's one of the 5 best quarterbacks in his second season in the National Football League.
He's only 2 years in the league.
And he will only get better. With that said, I think Kansas City will win by any number they want to. They're going to be angry. Andy Reid's going to get credit. Now, he should be undefeated at this point. They'll cover the spread, but it's not Herbert. That's not the reason. He'll throw his 2 or 3 touchdown passes. And again, I think he's one of the top quarterbacks. And I play fantasy every week, and I either use him or Russell Wilson almost every week. And I'm not going to use him this week because Kansas City is going to be angry. But I think Herbert's a very fine quarterback.
Okay, Fred, we're going to stay with you. Our next game, Chicago Bears at Cleveland. Cleveland laying 7.5, and gutsy performance last week by Baker Mayfield. He is a tough young man.
And he's a good actor on TV. Justin
and
Fields,
a good groundskeeper.
Justin Fields will be starting for the Bears. An injury with Dalton, knee injury. I don't know how you're going to get him out of that position unless he plays just horribly, or he gets injured. The Bears are in a very interesting circumstance, but I think the Browns, as you indicated, Mayfield, I think they'll win this game and win it by 10, 12, 14 points, something in that range. And it should be interesting what happens in the great Midwest with the Bears down the road. Dennis, what do you think about Fields starting this weekend? Do you think there's any chance Dalton getting his job back?
No, I don't think so. I think they should play Fields. And there's some indicators in this game, too, what might happen, because they opened this game Cleveland 9.5 after, as well as they played the other day, but it dropped to 7.5 in a quick hurry. So that tells me that there's a lot of money on the Bears. The Bears played very well in their game. And I think they're going to play better with this other quarterback. I mean, I don't like Andy Dalton, never did like Andy Dalton. I don't even know how he's playing in the league. He's like Wentz, you know? He's just like Wentz. I don't know. Maybe it's their red hair gets him the job, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, no, I like the other side here. I like the Bears. And the line movement from 9.5 down to 7.5 is a big indicator, you know, that the Bears can play with the Browns. So I'm going to take the points here.
Okay, we're going to do one more game before we go to our break. But, Dennis, let's stay with you on this one. We've got the Bengals going to the Steelers, Pittsburgh, -4.5 at home.
No, you would ask me this one after the Pittsburgh Steelers let it go against the Raiders. Can you believe the Las Vegas Raiders go into the Pittsburgh Steelers with injuries to every position they have? The only thing they have is their quarterback and 2 speedy receivers. And what happens? The speedy receivers and the quarterback beat Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh. Obviously, that game was one of the biggest games in town here in Las Vegas. It was the most picked game on the contest, Pittsburgh over the Raiders. So when Raiders upset Pittsburgh, you could just chalk up the money that the sports books made last week because they won practically every game on the board. Okay. I don't know what to say about Pittsburgh and Cincinnati because I think Cincinnati's getting better. And I'm going to go with the line move here. Pittsburgh started at 4.5 and it dropped to 3. Okay. And I think they should drop to 3. I didn't see anything that indicated they were very good when they played the Raiders, and they certainly can't defend against the deep ball. So I'm going to take the Cincinnati team here plus the 3, follow the line movement and the wise guys, and hope I'm right.
Fred?
Joe Burrow had thrown 199 consecutive passes without an INT. Then he threw 3 consecutive interceptions on 3 straight passes. He's not going to do that this week at Pittsburgh. I agree with Dennis, even though the line has dropped. I'd much rather have the 4.5. Goes to 3.5, I would jump on it. I think Cincinnati will cover that spread.
Okay, we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to finish up NFL Week 3 action. You're watching Football Forecast Weekly. We'll be right back.
Get the latest breaking news in the sports betting world. MyBookie monitors and releases information pertaining to online sportsbooks and professional football. The good as well as the bad.
And welcome back to Football Forecast Weekly. My name's Trip Mitchell, Dennis Tobler, Fred Wallen, picking winners for you, giving you information. And just as a quick overview, Dennis, your philosophy is a little different than most other bettors. You really look at line moves, and you have a computer and software that looks at lines all over the world. Can you describe your strategy a little bit, please?
Well, we operate just similar to what a hedge fund does. We take in investment money. We have a software program that scrapes all the lines in the world from the UK to Antigua, Belize, Costa Rica, Macau, wherever there's sports betting on American sports. And then we calculate what we think is the common line number or the flat line number without juice. And anytime we can get a number that has a positive edge over what we consider a consensus line, we'll take that bet. Now that's in our software program, in our hedge fund programs, and we do lots of bets in there, first half totals, et cetera, et cetera. Some weekends we may make as many as 180 bets. So that's how the hedging goes and how the moving with the line goes on betting that way. When you're betting for your own enjoyment or you're betting to pad your own pocketbook, it's a different story. I pick 4 or 5 games I like best and I lay my cash down, so I've got pocket money on it. But yes, as far as our business goes, we basically run like a hedge fund business. We play the plays as they come in as positive edges, and at the end of the day, we normally have a positive plus win.
Well, that's fantastic. So just kind of, it's a different way of looking at things. It relies on a lot of software, but it's a interesting approach. So let's get back to the
more thing. Let me add one more thing that may clarify it for everybody here. It's of our opinion, and I'm talking about me and a few group of major gamblers, that the sports lines around the world are consistent with the money that's coming in. So the places that take the big money and take the big syndicate action and the big wise guy action, those are the places that put the lines up and they move the lines, and they don't move the lines until they're moved on money. So we think that the injuries, we think the COVID, we think everything is built into these first lines and first line moves. After Thursday or Friday or something like that, everything that happens is by squares. Big people aren't moving money around. They might be taking back some action to hit some middles, but the fact of the matter is that's how it really works. I hope that helped explain it a little bit more. I mean, we feel like everything that we're discussing here about individuals and everything is already built into the world line. There's too much money bet around the world into these games to not know that the world consensus line is what the line ought to be for that game. And if you can get a better number than that, you need to bet it.
Okay. And let's get to 2 teams that are not going to inspire anyone this year. Falcons traveling to New Jersey to play the New York Giants. Giants laying 3 at the Meadowlands.
Uninspiring. I don't think the Giants quarterback's as good as everybody wants him to be either. Atlanta is horrible. I don't know what to say about Atlanta. Okay. I mean, I said they were the second worst team to begin with, and now I think I've changed it to the worst. But when you look at the Giants, the preseason line for this game was the Giants 2.5. Last week's early line for this game was the Giants 3. The Giants are sitting there -3 now. I wouldn't doubt if the game ends up 17-14. Giants favor, and it lands flat on 3. No opinion versus the spread.
Okay, Fred.
I think Dennis is speaking for me, and I think Dennis is speaking for a lot of people that follow the game closely, the games closely. It could end 17-14, 2017, something like this. Neither team's going to score a lot. Giants are at home. So if you're going to say straight up, I'd lean toward the Giants. I would not give 3. It's not a game that I care about. I don't think a lot of people out there care about it either.
Okay. Now see how Matty Ice does. We're going to go down. Miami Dolphins traveling to the Raiders, and the Raiders laying 3.5 at home. And this game, to me, seems like a no-brainer. Put everything you've got on the Raiders, but let's hear the experts. Fred, why don't we start with you?
Brissett starting in this game. 2 is out, which might be a positive, actually, because when we talk about Tua cannot go deep. I agree. I think the Raiders, they got something going. I'm not a big Gruden guy. So far, they've done nothing really to lead me in a direction that they're going to have a bad season. And I think they're going to win 10, 11 games. And I think they'll win here. I think they'll cover here.
Okay. Dennis?
Well, there's something about Las Vegas. It's just a wonderful place. Look what the Golden Knights did the first year they were in action. They went to the Stanley Cup Finals. And the Raiders, this is the first year in front of crowds here. I'm telling you, they're playing on emotion. And they really put it together when they beat Pittsburgh, and they have team confidence like you wouldn't believe now. A very interesting thing. Early line on this game last week was the Raiders -1. After the games were over and Tua's out, the number jumped to 5.5. Well, since 5.5, the guys who got it at 1 have been betting +5.5. So it's dropped back down to 4.5 or 4 as a consensus line around the world right about now. But I'm going to go with the Raiders. They're going to have the home crowd that's going to be magnificent for them. And without Tua, Miami could be better off, but they just are not going to be able to, after that tough loss last week, travel out here to Las Vegas and play against a team that's going to have 70,000 screaming fans. It's going to be more like a college game here. I'm going to lay any points in this game, and who knows what they're going to be, because as the Raiders get better and better, more money starts coming in from Los Angeles and Las Vegas on the Raiders and San Francisco. And it seems like these numbers are going to be skewed over time if this continues. So we'll take our shot on the Raiders this week, and then we may look to hedge them in weeks to come.
Okay, and let's talk about another team that plays in New Jersey, the Jets, traveling to the Broncos. And the Broncos, the number I have is the Broncos laying 10.5. Wow. Not a lot of respect. Wilson's performance last week after a decent week 1 was horrible. I think he had a quarterback rating of 8, which is not good. But the Jets getting 10.5 on the road. Dennis, what do you think of that?
The number started 9, immediately went to 11.5, and then the buyback started coming, and it's down to 10.5 now. That's the line I have on it. I think, as I predicted earlier in the year, the Broncos are going to be doing very well with Teddy Bridgewater at quarterback. And they have their defense back, and it showed the first 2 games of the year. I doubt the Jets score. The total on this game is only 41. Okay, so that's giving the Jets a little leeway for 7 to 10 points, but the Broncos will probably win this one 27-7. I'm going to take the Broncos, lay the points.
Fred?
It's worse than anything for Wilson, because as horribly as he's playing, Darnold is playing very well. So it makes him look even worse. What are the folks in Salt Lake and Provo saying about Zach Wilson's performance?
Well, they after week number 1, they were very pleased with the BYU product. There wasn't a lot said this week. So, but it here's the situation. I think the Jets have so many challenges, and you need a strong running game to help out, but that is one of the worst performance. And again, that quarterback rating is abysmal. and we'll see if they can come back. Let's take a look at another game that could be very interesting, and that's Tampa Bay. Tom Brady just pulling off miracles again, 5-touchdown game. Tampa Bay going into this visit the Rams, and Tampa Bay is laying 1.5 on the road. Fred, you're the West Coast expert. What do you think?
I think Stafford is his quarterback rating now is 40 points above his average quarterback rating. If he plays well, I think the Rams are going to win this game straight up. So nobody's going undefeated in the National Football League, and this will be the loss for sure, and not for sure, but this will be a loss for Tampa Bay in my belief. And of course, they're looking ahead. Next week, they've got the Patriots, and no matter what Brady says, that's in his head. It's got to be. That's got to be. So I'm taking the Rams to win in this circumstance.
Okay, Dennis?
Me too. I hate to agree with everything Fred says, but the line opened on this game, the Rams -1, went to the Bucks -1, back to the Rams -1, back to the Bucks -1, where I seen it set this morning. So I don't think really anybody has a good handle on this game. However, I think the Rams are a very good team. And with Donald in the middle, pressuring Brady in this one, Fred's right. I'm going to take the Rams, and if I can get the 1.5 and get a money line or get +2 and still get a decent money line, I'm going to take the Rams to win the game straight up. I don't think Tampa Bay will come out of there with a win.
Okay, let's move to another game, and a couple of teams we've been talking about, at least one in Seattle. Seattle going to Minnesota, and they're laying 1.5 on the road. We'll see if Russell Wilson can bounce back on this one. Dennis, what are your thoughts?
Well, my thoughts are, I don't know what to think about Minnesota's quarterback. He cost me the Arizona game last week, putting 30-some points up on the board against that defense from Arizona that I thought was pretty good. And Seattle fell flat on their face in the fourth quarter in their game, and they opened as a 1-point favorite, and they moved to a 2.5-point favorite. Now they're back down to 2. So the game's in Minnesota. Very tough game. I'm still going to stay with Seattle. I think they have the best quarterback. I think they have the best team. And I think last week might have been a farce as far as Minnesota's quarterback's concerned. I don't know. I was very disappointed the way Arizona played him on offense. I mean, you need to put pressure on the Vikings quarterback. If you can put pressure on, you're fine. Maybe Seattle will do that. Anyway, I'm going to take Seattle. They have the best talent. They have the best quarterback, and I'm going to take them and lay the 1.5.
Okay, Fred?
As indicated, I play fantasy a lot. And some of the leagues, you can use 5 players on one team. The other one, you can use 4. I'm full with Seattle. Every player that I can use, I've used. I think they'll win by 2, 3, 4 touchdowns. I don't think Minnesota's got a shot in heck here. I'm taking Seattle.
Okay.
Wow, I'm glad to hear that opinion. I'm glad that's added to my opinion.
Okay, and then we'll look down the Packers. Which Packers team are we going to see? Week number 1 versus New Orleans, or week number 2 against Detroit? They're traveling to play the Niners, and San Francisco is laying 3.5 at home.
Second most exciting game of the week, along with Tampa Bay and the Rams. Green Bay, it's the night game. San Francisco opened 4, went to 3.5 after Green Bay had a good outing on Monday night. Still, it's a short week for them, and they go on the road and they come out west. And San Francisco is a very good team. I know Rodgers always has it in his craw for San Francisco because they didn't draft him, so he's probably going to play well. And we also all knew the first week was Green Bay's exhibition game. So we had that figured out. Now I think they're playing for real here. And I don't think they can get by that tough 49er defense. And I think the 49ers quarterbacks are deep and can score on Green Bay too. It's probably going to be a high scoring game. And I'm going to take the 49ers to cover the 3.5.
Okay. And Fred?
I disagree. I'm going to take the Packers. In the first game, the 49ers lose Mostert, their best running back. Last week, they lost another running back. I don't think it's going to force them to pass more often. That's not their game. I think, as indicated, that the first game for the Packers was an exhibition game. They've got, almost like Kansas City, they've got so many guys who can catch the ball, including tight end Tonyan, who Rodgers calls Bobby. The point is, I think you're getting points and the Packers on a national TV game. And as you indicated, Rodgers and Cal, I'm going with the Green Bay Packers to beat the 49ers straight up, but certainly with the 3.5.
Wow.
Okay, and a Monday night game. The Eagles travel to Dallas. Dallas laying 3.5 at home.
You're asking me?
Yeah.
Well, I was looking at Dennis shaking his head, but Fred, let's go to you first. So, Dennis,
I have no strong opinion. I don't think Dallas is going to win 9 or 10 games. Philadelphia will not. Giving 3.5 is a lot of points in this circumstance. If I had to lean, I would take the Cowboys. I do like Prescott, and their running game certainly with Elliott, not bad. And Hurts, again, I don't think is a great National Football League type quarterback. I don't think he has the arm of some of the others. Better than Hurts, better than Tua, but not one of the top arms in the league. So I'll lean a little bit toward Dallas.
Okay, and Dennis?
On this game, it's a tough one, really. Dallas has played very, very well. It's hard to overlook Dallas in a situation like this when Philadelphia is going with a young quarterback. And it'll be a Monday night game, so they'll be playing for real on this. A couple of things you might want to think about. Over the summer line on this game was Dallas by 6.5. So early in the year, everybody was expecting a little more out of Dallas and a little less out of Philly. The line now I have is Dallas by 4. I'm kind of with Fred. If I do anything on this game, it will be take the points, because here could be another 3-pointer.
Okay, it sounds good. And before we go, Dennis, just some thoughts of the first couple of weeks of the NFL season. Who do you like right now in both the AFC and the NFC?
Oh, I don't know. I kind of stay away from that, trying to have somebody that I really like or I don't. I think in the AFC, Buffalo and Denver have proved themselves. And I think in the NFC, it's still up in the air. But I want to add this. Anything west of the Missouri River are the better teams. And that goes for college ball, too. It just seems to me like the most talent is in the west side of the Mississippi or Missouri River for both college and pro football. So in the NFC, it could be a toss-up. I really don't know. I think this game, Green Bay against the 49ers, will go a long way in deciding that.
Okay. And Fred, any thoughts after 2 weeks? Who you are starting to look at?
In the AFC, if Andy Reid uses his noodle, I think Kansas City, the Chiefs, will win the AFC this time around. As far as the NFC, as Dennis just said, could be the 49ers, but I'd lean more toward the Packers or Seattle. So we'll see how that works out. I'm always big on the best quarterbacks, and obviously with Rodgers and Russell Wilson, you've got among the best in Mahomes and Kansas City. So Kansas City was my choice on the AFC, and I'm wide open on the other side.
And quarterback, the most important position in team sports. Dennis, you were nice enough to include me in a documentary. Why don't you tell our viewers how they can get a hold of the best documentary on sports betting?
Well, thank you, Tripp. Yes, Now Place Your Bets, the history of sports betting in America, is now online for streaming to your TV through Vimeo.com/nowplaceyourbets, or you can buy a souvenir DVD at nowplaceyourbets.com. This movie, I don't mention it enough, but I've exposed Pete Rose in this movie quite a bit. I interviewed him for an hour for this particular movie, and you can get the Pete Rose story along with the gambling story if you watch this film. So please go to Vimeo.com/nowplaceyourbets. You can stream it live to your own home TV, or you can buy the DVD at nowplaceyourbets.com. Thanks.
Well,
Tripp.
that's great. And Fred, you got anything you don't have Dennis as a guest this weekend on your radio shows, you're going to suffer a ratings catastrophe.
First of all, the documentary is one of the best I've ever seen. Not just because I follow gambling, and not just because my dad once told me a story when I was a little kid. We were driving with the family to Vegas, and he said, Las Vegas was a whole lot better off toward the average player when the mafia ran it. You got to take a look at Dennis's documentary, because one of the best I've ever seen on the subject. And we're on Friday night, Saturday nights. On Friday night at 10 p.m. Pacific. Saturday night they move it around, but on TuneIn and all the radio stations, including KSHP 1400 in Las Vegas. Dennis will be a guest, not this week, but many times. And it's fun to do because we talk about just about everything in the wonderful and the wacky world of sports.
Well, when I started in this business 105 years ago, Fred, you were the star of the network at the original Sports and Entertainment Network. Fred, you did the Bally's show, and Bally's wrote a big check to the network to have your show every weekday night. So I remember, you were the stud at that network, and that was the first 24/7 all sports radio network, and we were the pioneers. ESPN followed us.
No, that's true, and nobody knows that. It was led by the late Richard Grissar, who ran the thing, and we were on for a couple of years, and then it became the American Sports Radio Network, and we were on a lot of affiliates at that point. I miss it. I'd fly into Vegas and do the show and come home for 2 days, and I don't like flying, so I really like the shows because I'd fly in. It was fun, and it's something I'll never forget the rest of my life.
Well, a lot of fun. Hey, Dennis, appreciate everything as usual. We want to thank the man who spins the dials and makes everything work for us, Lee Spencer. Lee, thanks so much for putting this together. And for Dennis and Fred, I'm Tripp. We'll see you next time, and have a very, very profitable weekend. Goodbye, everyone.
Thank you for listening to Football Forecast Weekly, an affiliate of TSI Network.